All right, here's a natural, extended S800 word speech segment expanding on key point 1, written in the style of a live talk, flowing conversationally and with impact too. You see, words are not just sounds in the air. Words are windows into someone's values, their worldview, and, most importantly, how they truly see you. A lot of us get caught up in how someone makes us feel in the moment. We're intoxicated by the chemistry, the excitement, the attention. But here's the truth: chemistry can blind us to character. And the character of the person you're with isn't hidden in their Instagram posts, or the way they look at you across the room, or even in the way they hold you when you're close. It's hidden in what they say when their guard is down, when they're being real, when they don't think you're paying close attention. Now, the danger is most people hear these little red flag comments and they do one of two things. They either brush them off because it was just a joke, or she didn't really mean it, or they overanalyze and twist themselves into knots trying to explain it away. Maybe she was just stressed, or maybe I took it the wrong way, or I'm probably overreacting. But let me tell you something. When someone shows you who they are through their words, that is not an accident. That is data. That is information. And if you ignore it, you are ignoring the clearest sign you'll ever get about what's waiting for you down the road. I'll give you an example. Imagine you're out with this woman and she says something like, "I don't really believe in relationships. They're just not for me." Now, you could tell yourself, well, maybe she just means she's been hurt before. Maybe she just needs someone who can show her love again. Maybe I can be the one to change her mind. But hear me, she just told you who she is. If someone tells you they don't believe in relationships, believe them. Don't try to turn yourself into the exception. Don't waste years of your life proving them wrong. Because even if they do stick around, you're already fighting an uphill battle against their own beliefs, and you will pay the price in time, energy, and heartbreak. Here's another one. I don't need anyone. You've heard that, right? It sounds strong, it sounds independent, and independence is beautiful. But there's a difference between healthy independence and emotional unavailability. If someone is telling you outright that they don't need anyone, what they're really saying is, I will never allow myself to be vulnerable with you. I will never let you in. And maybe at first, that feels like a challenge you want to take on. But what starts as a challenge turns into years of trying to climb a wall that was never meant to come down. The point is this: people don't always announce themselves with flashing lights and warning signs. They announce themselves with subtle phrases, little admissions, comments that might even sound harmless or casual. And the tragedy is, so many people stay in relationships that are doomed from the start because they refused to take those words seriously in the beginning. Now, why do we ignore them? Because we're afraid. We're afraid of losing someone we're attracted to. We're afraid of starting over. We're afraid that maybe, if we let them go, we won't find someone else. So we make excuses. We rationalize. We convince ourselves that what they said wasn't really that important. But here's the cost of that fear. Every time you ignore those red flag words, you are signing up for a future version of yourself that is exhausted, resentful, and broken-hearted. And I promise you, the version of you who's sitting there 3 years later, wondering why they didn't just walk away when they had the chance, would give anything to come back to this moment and make a different choice. You know, I've had people say to me, but what if I'm being too harsh? What if I'm leaving too soon? And my response is simple. It is better to leave a situation early, based on someone's words, than to stay and discover the hard way that they meant every single one of them. You're not being harsh when you hold someone accountable for what they say. You're being wise. You're protecting yourself. You're respecting your own future. Because at the end of the day, words are not small things. Words are commitments. Words are beliefs. Words are the breadcrumbs that lead you straight to someone's truth. And when a woman tells you something that reveals she doesn't want what you want, she doesn't respect what you respect, or she doesn't believe in the kind of love you're looking for, that is not just something she said. That is the clearest signal you will ever get that it's time to leave. So, when you hear those words, don't argue, don't negotiate. Don't waste your time trying to decode or reinterpret. Just believe her. Because believing her is what saves you from years of unnecessary pain. Leave her immediately. Love without respect is like a house without a foundation. It might look beautiful for a while, or it might even feel exciting when you first walk inside, but sooner or later, it's going to collapse on you. And here's the dangerous part. Most people are so hungry for love, for affection, for connection, that they forget to ask the real question. Am I being respected here? Respect is the glue that holds everything else together. You can have passion, you can have chemistry, you can have fun, but if you don't have respect, none of it matters. And what does respect look like in practice? It looks like someone listening to you when you speak. It looks like someone considering your needs when they make decisions. It looks like someone choosing not to use words that cut you down just because they're angry in the moment. Respect is the quiet commitment that your dignity is safe with them. But here's what happens to so many people. They hear the sweet words, they get wrapped up in the attention, they mistake affection for respect. Someone can tell you, "You're amazing, you're gorgeous, I love being around you," and still not respect you. They can buy you gifts, they can text you every day, they can even say they love you, and still treat your feelings as optional. Affection can exist without respect. That's the hard truth. Now, if you're with someone and their words make you feel small, or less than, or unworthy, pay attention to that. Because when a woman says things that strip away your self-esteem, when she belittles your ambitions, when she mocks your values, she is telling you that affection might be present, but respect is missing. And love without respect is not love. It's control, it's dependency, it's a slow erosion of who you are. I'll give you an example. Imagine you share a dream you've had since you were a kid. Something that lights you up. And her response is, "That's stupid. Why would you ever do that?" In that moment, you might laugh it off. You might say, "Oh, she's just joking." But she wasn't joking. What she did was plant a seed of doubt in you. And if you stay long enough, those seeds multiply. Suddenly, you start questioning yourself, you start holding back, you stop dreaming out loud, and little by little, you shrink. That's what happens when you trade self-respect for affection. Or maybe it's more subtle. Maybe every time you make a decision, she second guesses you. Maybe every time you try to stand up for yourself, she turns it around and makes you feel guilty for even speaking up. That's not respect. That's manipulation. And yet, because the relationship has affection, because there are moments of passion and closeness, you convince yourself that it's worth putting up with. You tell yourself, "But she loves me." Let me be clear. Love that costs you your self-respect is not love you should keep. Because the moment you allow someone to consistently disrespect you, you are sending a message, not just to them, but to yourself, that your dignity is negotiable, that your worth can be bargained away in exchange for attention. And once you make that deal, you'll find yourself justifying almost anything. Harsh words, broken promises, even betrayal, because you've convinced yourself that affection is enough. But here's the beautiful thing. When you raise your standards, when you decide that love, without respect, doesn't count, everything changes. You stop wasting years with people who can't meet you where you are. You stop begging for crumbs of affection and start demanding the full meal. Love that uplifts, love that honors, love that never makes you feel less than. And don't think for a second that walking away from disrespect is about being harsh or unforgiving. It's about being wise. It's about protecting your future. Because if you don't, you'll look back one day and realize you traded the best of yourself for moments of affection that were never backed up by respect. And that's a deal you'll always regret. So the next time someone tells you they love you, but their actions or their words show a lack of respect, believe the actions, believe the words. Affection without respect is like sugar without nutrition. It tastes sweet for a moment, but it leaves you empty in the end. Respect is non-negotiable. And if you don't have it, don't fool yourself into thinking you have love. Leave her immediately. Boundaries are one of those things people like to talk about, but very few actually enforce. And the reason most people don't enforce them is because they're afraid of losing someone. They think, if I tell her this isn't okay, she might get upset. She might pull away. She might leave. But here's the uncomfortable truth. If someone leaves because you held to your boundary, then they were never supposed to stay in the first place. A relationship without boundaries is a relationship that will eventually drain you. Boundaries are not about control. They're not about trying to change the other person. Boundaries are about you saying, this is who I am, this is what I need to be healthy, and this is what I will and won't accept in my life. They are an expression of self-respect. And when you set a boundary, you're not testing the other person. You're revealing to yourself who they actually are. Now think about what happens when someone mocks or rejects your boundaries. You tell her, I don't like it when you raise your voice at me. And she laughs and says, you're too sensitive. You say, I need honesty in this relationship. And she responds with, everyone lies sometimes, don't be dramatic. In those moments, she's not just brushing off a preference, she's showing you how she truly values you. And if you allow it, if you let it slide, you are essentially saying, all my boundaries don't matter. My needs don't matter. And once you send that message, it only gets worse from there. Because here's what boundaries do. They teach people how to treat you. If you have no boundaries, you are teaching them that they can say whatever they want, do whatever they want, and you'll still be there. You are teaching them that access to your life doesn't require respect. It doesn't require consideration. It doesn't require care. And if someone learns that lesson early, you will spend the rest of the relationship paying the price. One of the most dangerous lies people tell themselves is, maybe it will get better with time. But boundaries don't magically appear later. If she doesn't respect them now, she won't respect them in 6 months, she won't respect them in a year, and she won't respect them after you've given her everything. If anything, the longer you stay, the less incentive she has to ever respect them, because she knows you'll stay regardless. And let's be honest, sometimes the reason we don't enforce boundaries isn't just fear of losing the person. It's because deep down we don't fully believe we deserve to have them. We think, maybe I am asking for too much. Maybe I should just be more patient. Maybe I should learn to accept this. But that's the dangerous game. The more you rationalize someone stepping over your boundaries, the more you erode your own sense of worth. And before you know it, you don't just lose the relationship, you lose yourself. I want you to imagine something. Imagine you set a boundary and she responds with, "Thank you for telling me that. I didn't realize it made you feel that way. I'll be more mindful." Imagine how different that feels compared to someone dismissing you, mocking you, or ignoring you. That's the difference between someone who respects you and someone who doesn't. And that difference will determine the entire direction of your relationship. So many people stay stuck because they confuse conflict with connection. They think every couple argues, every couple fights. And yes, conflict is normal. But here's the key. How does the person handle your boundaries during conflict? Do they see it as an opportunity to grow closer? Or do they see it as an inconvenience they need to bulldoze through to get what they want? That's where the truth lies. And let me tell you something important. A woman who truly values you will never make you feel guilty for having boundaries. She may not always like them, she may not always agree, but she will respect them because she respects you. The one who mocks them, dismisses them, or pushes against them again and again is showing you, loud and clear, that her needs will always come before your well-being. Don't ignore that. Don't explain it away. Because once you normalize having your boundaries disrespected, you create a life where you are constantly walking on eggshells, constantly adjusting yourself to avoid conflict, constantly shrinking who you are just to keep the peace. And that is not love. That is survival. You deserve more than survival. You deserve someone who hears your boundary and says, "I care about you too much to ignore that." That is the minimum standard. That is the baseline for respect. So if you set your boundary and she shows you through her words that she will never honor it, don't argue, don't debate, and don't negotiate. Leave her immediately. One of the most dangerous mistakes people make in relationships is believing someone's actions today will erase the words they said yesterday. We hear something that cuts deep, something that reveals how they truly feel, but then they do something sweet later. Buy us dinner, hold us close, send us that goodnight message, and suddenly we decide to overlook it. We tell ourselves, they didn't mean it, or they were just having a bad day. But here's the truth. What people say consistently is a reflection of what they believe. Their words are not accidents. Their words are clues. And if you ignore them, you are choosing to blind yourself to reality. Think about it. If a woman tells you, "I don't really see a future with you," and the next day she cuddles with you on the couch, which one are you going to believe? Most people choose the cuddling. Why? Because it feels better. Because hope is seductive. Because it's easier to believe in the temporary comfort of affection than in the uncomfortable reality of someone's words. But that choice comes at a cost. When you ignore what someone says, you set yourself up to be surprised later by a truth you were already told from the very beginning. Consistency matters. And when someone consistently drops hints or makes remarks that undermine the relationship, they are not random comments. They are a pattern. They are giving you a preview of the ending. The problem is, most of us would rather rewrite the script in our heads than admit the ending is already being written for us. Now, here's the tricky part. Words and actions can often contradict each other. She might say something dismissive about your dreams, but then later show you physical affection. She might tell you she doesn't want commitment, but still call you every night. She might mock your values, but still post pictures with you online. And if you're not careful, you'll grab onto the actions and ignore the words, because the actions are comforting. But you cannot build a future on comforting lies. You can only build on consistent truth. And the truth is found in what someone says, especially when it's said more than once. I want you to remember something people tell you, who they are all the time, but most of us don't want to hear it. We don't want to believe it. So we excuse it. We rationalize. We say, she was drunk when she said that, or she was just angry, or she didn't mean it like that. But repetition is everything. If she says something more than once, that's not a slip up. That's not stress talking. That's her truth coming out. And if you ignore it, you're gambling with your peace, your time, and your future. Imagine this scenario. You're with someone who constantly makes little digs about commitment. Marriage isn't for me. I don't believe people are meant to be with one person forever. We don't need labels, do we? The first time you laugh it off. The second time you feel uneasy but say nothing. By the 10th time, you've normalized it. And one day, when she finally leaves because she never wanted anything serious, you're shocked, even though she told you from day one. That shock isn't really shock. It's denial. It's the price you paid for ignoring her consistency. Here's the thing, consistency is the real evidence in a relationship. Anyone can say, I love you. Anyone can buy flowers or plan a date. But when someone repeatedly dismisses your feelings, repeatedly undermines your goals, repeatedly shows you with their words that they don't share your vision, that's who they are. Believe that. Don't make the mistake of falling in love with the exception when the rule is staring you in the face. And let me tell you this, you don't need to wait for someone's actions to catch up with their words. If her words reveal a lack of respect, a lack of vision, or a lack of care for your needs, that's enough. You don't need proof beyond that. Too many people waste years waiting for actions to contradict the words they've already heard loud and clear. That waiting is what drains you. That waiting is what keeps you stuck. Someone who truly values you will have alignment between their words and their actions. They'll tell you they care, and they'll show it. They'll say they want a future, and they'll invest in one. They'll tell you they respect your boundaries, and then honor them. That's what consistency looks like. Yeah. Anything else is chaos disguised as connection. Don't allow yourself to get trapped in chaos just because the moments in between feel good. Don't cling to mixed signals because you're afraid of losing what little you have. Because mixed signals are not signs of potential, they are signs of confusion. And confusion is not a foundation for love. So if her words keep showing you that she doesn't value you, doesn't see a future with you, or doesn't care about what matters to you, don't ignore it just because her actions sometimes feel good. Her consistency is her truth. And if that truth doesn't align with your values, your dreams, and your peace, the answer is simple. Leave her immediately. The hardest part about walking away is rarely the decision itself. It's the timing. Most people don't struggle because they can't see the red flags. Deep down, they see them. They hear the dismissive comments. They feel the lack of respect. They know their boundaries aren't being valued. But instead of acting on that truth, they wait. They hold on a little longer, telling themselves, maybe things will change. Maybe she just needs more time. Maybe I can prove I'm worth it. And what happens? Days turn into months, months turn into years, and by the time they finally leave, the damage is 10 times worse than it had to be. Leaving early isn't about giving up. It's about protecting yourself before you lose too much. Because the longer you stay in a relationship that's not right, the harder it becomes to let go. You build habits together, you create memories, you invest your emotions, and that investment tricks you into thinking you owe it more time. But just because you've put in effort doesn't mean it's worth more of your life. Time already spent is not a reason to waste more time. Think of it like this: if you got on the wrong train, would you sit there for 2 more hours just because you've already been on it for 10 minutes? Of course not. You'd get off at the next stop, even if it's inconvenient, even if it means waiting for the right train to come. Relationships are the same. The sooner you recognize you're on the wrong track, the sooner you can redirect toward where you actually want to go. But people don't leave early because they're scared. Scared of being alone, scared of starting over, scared of the unknown. And yet, staying in the wrong relationship doesn't save you from fear. It only guarantees more pain later. You don't avoid heartbreak by staying. You just delay it. And in that delay, you make it worse because you've given more of yourself away to someone who never deserved it. I've spoken to so many people who look back after years in a toxic or unfulfilling relationship and say the same thing: I knew it wasn't right from the beginning. Think about that. They knew. But they didn't trust themselves enough to act on it. They thought it was safer to stay, safer to wait, safer to hope. And by the time they realized they couldn't ignore it anymore, they had lost parts of themselves in the process. Their confidence, their dreams, their sense of identity. That's why leaving early is an act of courage. It's not about rejecting someone. It's about protecting yourself. It's about choosing your peace over your fear. And here's the part most people don't realize. Leaving early doesn't just save you from pain. It creates space for something better. Because as long as you're holding on to the wrong person, your hands are too full to reach for the right one. Now, some of you might say, but what if I leave too soon? What if I walk away from something that could have worked out? That's a fear we all wrestle with, but let me challenge that thought. Leaving someone who consistently disrespects you, ignores your boundaries, or tells you outright that they don't want what you want, that's not leaving too soon. That's leaving on time. That's leaving before you lose yourself. The mistake isn't leaving too early. The mistake is staying too long, because staying too long convinces you that disrespect is normal. It convinces you that your boundaries are unreasonable. It convinces you that love is supposed to be heavy and painful and complicated. And once you believe that, you'll keep repeating the same mistake over and over with different people. But when you leave early, you send a message to yourself that says, I value me. I believe my needs matter. I will not waste my life hoping someone becomes what they've already told me they're not. And that message is powerful because it rewires how you show up in every future relationship. You stop chasing potential and start demanding reality. You stop hoping for change and start looking for consistency. You stop waiting for love to hurt less and start expecting it to feel safe from the very beginning. I want you to remember this. Heartbreak is not caused by leaving too early. Heartbreak is caused by staying too long. It's not the moment you walk away that breaks you. It's the years you spent ignoring yourself before you did. That's what drains you. That's what scars you. So, the next time someone shows you through their words that they don't respect you, that they don't want what you want, or that they don't value your boundaries, don't wait for more proof. Don't wait for more pain. Don't wait for a better moment to come, because it never will. The best time to leave is the first time you know in your gut it's not right. Every day after that is just borrowed time, and borrowed time always comes with interest. Leave her immediately. At the end of the day, everything comes down to how much you value yourself. Because here's the truth, people will always treat you according to the standard you set for yourself. If you carry yourself like someone whose worth is negotiable, people will negotiate it. If you act like someone who will tolerate disrespect, people will test those limits. But when you stand in your own value, when you decide that your dignity, your peace, and your self-respect are non-negotiable, you change the entire dynamic of every relationship you're in. Too many people wait for someone else to prove their worth to them. They think, if she treats me well, then I'll feel valuable. If she commits to me, then I'll feel secure. If she respects me, then I'll know I'm worthy. But that's the wrong way around. You don't wait for someone to validate your worth. You set the tone from the very beginning. You say through your actions, through your standards, through the way you carry yourself, this is how I deserve to be treated. And if you can't meet me here, you don't get me. Now, I know that's scary. Because it means being willing to walk away. It means being willing to lose someone you want in order to protect the version of yourself you need. And a lot of people aren't willing to make that trade. They'll cling to a relationship even as it erodes their self-esteem. Because they think having someone, anyone, is better than being alone. But what's the cost of that mindset? The cost is waking up years from now and realizing you built your life around someone who never valued you in the first place. The cost is looking in the mirror and barely recognizing yourself because you've chipped away at your own worth just to keep them around. When a woman says something that clearly devalues you, you have a choice. You can ignore it, excuse it, and hope it changes, or you can say, no, I am not staying where I'm not valued. And that choice is not about her. It's about you. It's about whether you believe you're worth more than being treated like an afterthought. Think about this. The moment you tolerate disrespect, you are teaching her how to treat you. If you stay, she learns that your self-respect is flexible. She learns that she can say whatever she wants, treat you however she wants, and you'll still be there. But if you leave, she learns something else, that you value yourself too much to be treated that way. And even more importantly, you teach yourself that your worth is real, that your dignity is real, and that your love is not something to be wasted on someone who doesn't honor it. And here's the irony. When you have the courage to value yourself, you don't lose people who matter. You only lose the ones who never intended to treat you right anyway. The right person will never be threatened by your standards. The right person will never mock your boundaries, never diminish your worth, never make you feel guilty for demanding respect. The right person will meet you there. They will rise to the level you set because they want to, not because you begged them to. So many people waste years trying to convince someone to see their value, when the reality is, your value was never in question. It was your belief in it that wavered. The moment you decide, truly decide, that you are worth more than disrespect, more than manipulation, more than empty promises, that's the moment your life changes. Because from that moment on, you stop chasing and you start choosing. You stop settling and you start aligning. You stop asking, will she finally see my worth? And start asking, does she deserve access to me in the first place? And let me tell you something powerful. When you finally walk away from someone who doesn't value you, you don't just gain your freedom. You gain yourself back. You reclaim the energy you wasted on trying to prove yourself. You reclaim the confidence you lost in the arguments and dismissive words. You reclaim the peace you sacrificed just to keep someone who was never truly keeping you. That's the gift of valuing yourself enough to leave. So the next time you hear words from her that show she doesn't see your worth, remember this: it is not your job to convince her. It is not your job to fight for the bare minimum. Your only job is to decide whether her words align with the life and love you know you deserve. And if they don't, you already know what to do. Leave her immediately.